Okay, so Putas, today we are going to, I'll keep this lesson short, just to an hour, okay? And a few announcements. Even though I said I want to have a class tomorrow, Monday, I forgot I have some other class. So I will do the next class on Tuesday, and I will do the Buddhist councils, all right? And I can do another class on Wednesday if you all are free. Are you all free on Wednesday as well? 8 to 9, 1 hour?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Okay. All right, good. So we'll do it Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Okay. So today we are going to do the lesson called the paramita or the perfections. So what does the word parami means, right? What it means is it would enable one to go to the other shore. What do you think the writer who wrote this meant by the other shore? What is the other shore that they are trying to go towards? Anyone? What do you think? Gautam, what do you think? What is the other shore? But are you on mute?
Perceptions.
So the other shore here is what they are talking about is, darling, enlightenment, right? So paramita or the perfections is something a bodhisattva will do through his long cycle of birth and rebirth, right? Where he wants to become a Samma Sambuddha. Now, if you want to get enlightened, which we call attaining Nibbana, you don't need to do the paramita. You need to follow the eightfold path that the Buddha has prescribed, right? Paramita or perfections is if you have a strong determination that you want to be a Buddha, okay, then there are these perfections, because a Buddha is not a normal human being. A Buddha is an extraordinary human being. Yeah, of course, he has a normal human body and a mind, but he has extraordinary qualities like he's very kind, he's very intelligent, right? He's very disciplined. So all of these things need to be perfected birth after birth in order for him to be able to be at his best, right? So that is what a parami means. Parami means that which would enable one to go to the other shore, right? So I have a short note on this. I will put it in the group once I am done. Just to check, so we have grade 8 students here and grade 9. Is there any grade 10 students here? Yeah, no? I think Gautam and Lanka in grade 10. So that's why I put it in all three groups. Okay. All right. So parami means that which would enable one to go to the other shore. The other shore is bodhi or enlightenment. These are the virtues practiced by a bodhisattva to gain enlightenment. A bodhisattva, through his long cycle of births, developed these virtues to eliminate suffering and for the welfare of others, right? So the poor, those who are in distress, those who are unhappy, and so on. These stories are part of the Jataka stories, right? Now, here there is a number to remember. We call it the Pansiya Panas as Jataka stories, right? But in reality, Pansiya Panaha, 550 odd Jataka stories. But in reality, do you remember what number actually there is for the Jataka stories? This number is an approximation. So actually there are 547 Jataka stories, 547. This was an MCQ question one year. Okay. So remember it. How many? Tell me. Put it, type it in the message box, everyone. Because when you are listening today, Puta, study on the go so that you don't have to study separately, right? While listening, study. Okay, so Inura, very good. Methuki, well done. What about the others? Yes, Kenuli has answered, very good. Kalana, Janadi, Manuka, very good. I'm asking you what is the exact number of Jataka stories in the Jataka book? We call it the Pansiya Panas. Pansiya Panas Pas Kila the Pansiya Panas Pas. Yeah, it gives the impression of 550 or 555, but actually in reality there is only 547. So it's an approximation that has been used. Okay, very good, Gautam. Excellent. So good. So all of you answered more or less. So these perfections, the stories related to the perfections come from the Jataka stories. But if we think of the perfections, there are 10. So what are the 10? First one is Dana, which we call generosity. Okay, so as I'm saying now, you must remember this because the exam is in just about 1.5 months' time, right? So Dana. Second one is Sila, which we call morality. Third one is Nekkhamma, renunciation. Yeah. So Dana, Sila, Nekkhamma. Dana, Sila, Nekkhamma. Okay. Tell it to yourself. Dana, Sila, Nekkhamma. Can you say that? You don't have to put you don't need to unmute. I can see you saying it. You can just say Dana, Sila, Nekkhamma. All right. Dana, Sila, Nekkhamma. Very good. Because we are going to study as we go, right? That's the best way, Puta. Then you are really fully utilizing your time. Don't think of, I'll just listen partially now and I'll study later, right? So out of the 10 perfections, the first 3 are Dana, Sila, Nekkhamma. So Dana is generosity, Sila is morality, Nekkhamma is renunciation. Then comes the next 3, Prajna, Virya, and Khanti. Prajna is wisdom, Virya is perseverance or taking effort, and Khanti is patience. Okay? So, Prajna, wisdom, Virya, perseverance, and Khanti. Prajna, Virya, Khanti. Yeah? Prajna, Virya, Khanti. Okay? Dana, Sila, Nekkhamma. Prajna, Virya, Khanti. Very good. Dana, Sila, Nekkhamma. Prajna, Virya, Khanti. Now, repeat it to yourself a couple of times. Dana, Sila, Nekkhamma. Prajna, Virya, Khanti. Dana, Sila, Nekkhamma. Prajna, Virya, Khanti. Okay? Very good. So what does it mean? Dana is generosity. Sila is morality. Nekkhamma is renunciation. Prajna is wisdom. Virya is perseverance or taking the right effort. Mahansiya can put that perseverance. And Khanti is patience. So now out of the 10, we know 6. Let us look at the last 4. Sakka. Sakka means truthfulness. I think this must be Satcha. Sakka or Satcha. Sometimes when, Sakka is written as S-A-C-C-A, sometimes the ch sound is used, Satcha. I think it is Satcha. Okay, look, I'm really sorry about it. Okay, I can't remember the pronunciation. It's Sakka or Satcha. Could it be Satcha? That is truthfulness, keeping a promise. Aditthana. Aditthana comes from the Sanskrit word adhisthana, which we use in Sinhala as well, right? Determination. You make a determination. Satcha. I think this is Satcha, Dani. Satcha is truthfulness. Metta is loving kindness. Upekka is equanimity. So the last 4 is Satcha, Aditthana, Metta, Upekka. Satcha, Aditthana, metta, upekka. Satcha, aditthana, metta, upekka. Say to yourself, satcha, aditthana, metta, upekka. Satcha, aditthana, metta, upekka. Satcha, aditthana, metta, upekka. All right. Now, shall we try to tell everything? Okay, this is simply memory, nothing else. Okay, I'll explain everything, but let's just try to memorize it first. Dana, Sila, Nekkhamma. Dana, Sila, Nekkhamma. Next three words. Prajna, Virya, Khanti. Prajna, Virya, Khanti. Then comes Satcha, Aditthana, Metta, Upekka. Satcha, Aditthana, Metta, Upekka. Okay. Shall we try to tell it together? What is the first one? Okay, let's do it like this. You all type it in now, right? Okay, what is the first one? Type it in. Very good. Excellent. Yes. First one is Dana. What is the second one? Sila. Yes, second one is Sila. Everybody's type it in. Third one is Nekkhamma. Very good. I hope you have the book close by. You can look at it and say. Third one is Nekkhamma. Very good. Dana, Sila, Nekkhamma. Then we go to the next three. Next three is what? You can type all together. Prajna, Virya, Khanti. Prajna, Virya, Khanti. Type it together. Right? Prajna, Virya, Khanti. Yes, very good. Prajna, Virya, Khanti. Very good. And what are the last four? Last four is type it together. Satcha, Aditthana, Metta, Upekka. Yes, very good. Well done, Gautama. Well done. Satcha, Aditthana, Metta, Upekka. Okay. Can I ask you all to keep your videos on as well? Very good, Methuki. Very good, Kenuli. So did I miss anybody? Let me see. Ah, Lanka has written it first. I didn't see that. I think all of you had written it well. Huh? Satcha, Aditthana, Metta, Upekka has written Gautam. Then Lanka has written it. Yes, very good. Manasi, Methuki, Kenuli, Inura, Janadi. Very good. All right, well done. Kalana. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now let's study it one more time from the beginning. Dana, Sila, Nekkhamma. Then what? Prajna, Virya. After that, what? Prajna, Virya. Sorry. Prajna, Virya, Khanti. There we go. And then Satcha, Aditthana, Metta, Upekka. All right? Very good. Very good. Yes, thank you. Somebody had typed it in as well. Very good. Excellent. Now let us look at what this means. Right? So think of it from in terms of becoming a Samma Sambuddha. So the first thing about a Samma Sambuddha is generosity, right? Now, the Buddha has advised us also to practice generosity, dana, because it helps to eliminate craving. And certainly a person who is striving to be a Samma Sambuddha also needs to practice dana, and not just like how you and I do. For a Bodhisattva, dana goes to an extreme level, right? So this is about eliminating craving from giving up his wealth. And that is what King Vesantara did, giving up your properties, giving up your kingdom, your wife and children, right? King Vesantara did all of that, and you go beyond that and give up your body and your life. Okay. Now, when a bodhisattva is trying to do this Putta, it is not considered suicide. Okay. Committing suicide and practicing the dana paramita and giving up your body for the benefit of somebody else are two different things. Okay. So don't ever consider that somebody committing suicide is a paramita. All right. One of the nicest stories for giving up your body was where the bodhisattva and a friend was once going down, walking in a jungle, and they come across a deep pit where tigress, the tiger mom and her 2, 3 cubs, I think 2 cubs, had fallen in accidentally. And it was very deep, so they were unable to come out. But actually, there was some branch with the tiger can, like, how these tigers belong to the cat family, right? So they all carry their young ones with their teeth from the neck. The tiger mom was planning to like crawl up, and there was some branch, and with some effort she can come out. But the thing is, she was very hungry and very weak. In her weakened state, she was unable to come out. So these guys, they put some branches in for her to try and come out, but they realized that she needs to build her strength in order to come out. She can't just come out. So then they were thinking, okay, what can we do? And the nearest village was quite far away. So the friend of Bodhisattva said, I will go back to the village and get some meat from them and come and give it to the tiger mom so that she can have it and get her strength. And then grab her tiger cubs, and come out of this, right? By going up those branches that they put into the pit. So the friend went, but the Bodhisattva was thinking the village is very far away. It might take even a day or two for the friend to go and to come back. And by that time, this tiger mom is in a very weak state. She might actually die. If she dies, then there's no way to get the pups out. So he decides that let my body be food for this tiger mother and the children. And he, because he was anyway developing these, practicing these perfections with the intent of being a Samma Sambuddha in a next birth, in a future birth, he jumped into the pit to let the animals then have the food that the animal needs, right? So that kind of extreme dana, generosity, is something a bodhisattva will do when a bodhisattva is practicing this perfection in order to be a Buddha in a later state, right? So the normal saying is Sara Sankhya Kalpa Lakshayak, right? That many births. Sara Sankhya Kalpa Lakshayak means a very, very, very long time of birth after birth. Okay. So the stories that are given as an example for this is the Vesantara Jataka. So the King Vesantara, he gave up his kingdom, then he gave up his wife, his children, right? That was how he practiced the generosity. So in the book, there are 2 stories mentioned, the Vesantara Jataka and the Sasa Jataka. The Sasa Jataka was about a rabbit, or it's a bigger rabbit, what we call a hare, right? Who was willing to give up his life because a beggar came saying the beggar is hungry and has not been able to eat, but the beggar was actually the king of gods, the Sakra, who was going to test how serious this hare was in this perfection, because the dana generosity as a perfection means you are even willing to give up your life, right? And the Sakka wanted to see how serious this hare was, and of course the hare was very serious, and the hare was willing to give up his life. So what happened was, it was a Poya day, and the hare as per the story goes, the hare wanted to observe precepts on the boy day, and he also made a determination that I will feed anybody who comes hungry today. I will look for food and help to feed anybody who comes looking for food. So then Sakra, the king of the gods, he comes disguised as a beggar, and he says, "Oh, I'm so hungry. I have not eaten in a couple of days, and I don't think I can manage anymore. I'm so hungry. Give me something to eat." And then this hare thinks, okay, he feels sorry for this beggar, and he feels, okay, there's nothing I can give this beggar other than for my own body. And he tells the beggar, please create a fire, and I'll jump to the fire and you can eat my meat and appease your hunger. So the king of gold, Sakra, he creates a fire. So it looks like a fire, but it's actually a magic fire. It's not a real fire. The hare doesn't know it. It looks like a fire. And the hare genuinely jumps into it, right? And then instead of getting burned, the hare finds that there's actually no fire. And then the Sakra appears in his true form and says, I was actually testing you to see how sincere you were. And you are very sincere. And the story goes that the Sakra then drew the rabbit's picture in the moon and so on. So these are stories, right? You know that there is no rabbit on the moon, right? But it's good to think of this as the direction of it, right? What does this mean? So what it's trying to show is how serious a bodhisattva is in this whole pursuit of becoming a Samma Sambuddha in a future date. Okay. So for the exams, I looked at some exam questions in YMBA. So the most common exam question comes like this. Name the 10 perfections in Pali or English and give a brief description how the Bodhisattva fulfilled one of them, right? So when such a question is asked, the perfect answer is, it says name the 10 perfections in Pali or English. So I always advise do it in both. So dana or generosity, sila or morality, nekkhamma or renunciation, prajna or wisdom, virya or perseverance, khanti or patience, satya or truthfulness, aditthana or determination, metta or loving kindness, upekkha or equanimity, right? So you name the 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you will get marks for that. And then you explain one of them. So if you are going to explain dana or generosity, how you'll explain is dana or generosity is eliminating craving and trying to alleviate the suffering of another. No limit to generosity of a bodhisattva. A bodhisattva will give up his wealth, properties, kingdom, wife, children, and even own limbs and life in order to perfect this. Right? So the Vesantara story and the Sasa story are examples, and you can write one of them. Okay? That is how you answer that question. Second one is Sila or morality. And in this, you find it talks about Charitra and Varitra. So Charitra are things that one should perform, duties. And Varitra is abstinences or other things that you shouldn't do, right? So think of the Singalovada Sutra where various duties one should perform is mentioned, right? Like what? So in the Singalovada Sutra, they mention 6 directions. And in those 6 directions, we find remember, so the east is parents and children. So there are duties of parents towards children and children towards parents. Then the west is husband and wife, duties of husband to the wife, wife to the husband. Then the north was friends. So you have duties towards your friends have duties towards you. And the south was teachers and students. So teachers have duties towards the students have duties towards teachers. And then above was monks, the clergy, where we as laymen have duties towards the monks, and monks have duties to the laymen. And below is employees, uh, servants, and so on, where we have duties towards them and they have duties towards us, right? So those are those come under the whole charitra, or duties one should perform. And the varitra is things you shouldn't do, right? So for example, the dasakusal, and you should do the dasakusal, controlling your desires. So sila is about morality and discipline, right? So if we take the Pansilpadapaha, we say don't steal, don't lie, don't kill, right? Don't do this and don't do that. And all of that is for discipline, morality, right? So the story is the Sankapala Jataka, the king of the Nagas. So the king of the Nagas, which is a big snake, okay? And it's not just like a normal snake you see in these stories. The king of Naga, um, there's a world called the Naga Loki, and in that there are the Naga, the beings called Nagas, and they are very powerful. They can do some magic and stuff like that. So once the king of Nagas was um, um, what do you say, has taken observed Sil on Day, and he was practicing morality, right? Again, this was a bodhisattva, our bodhisattva, while he was developing his perfection of sila or morality. So as per that, he was very strict in and disciplined, where he will not do anything bad through his through words or actions and so on. So while he was having observed Sil, he was in a side minding his own business when some Vedas who went hunting and they couldn't find any meat that day, and they came across this giant serpent, and they were like, okay. So first they were scared because it was a very, very big serpent. But then they thought, looks like he's a very mild serpent, right? Um, because as they were coming close, the serpent didn't do anything. Now, usually fierce, powerful animals or beings, when some danger is approaching them, they will make sounds, they will look fierce, and in case of a serpent, they can do this like hissing sounds, right? And none of those. He was just lying peacefully. So there are some people who then take advantage of it, right? When somebody, even though big and powerful, is lying peacefully, some others might try to bully the person, and that is normal, right? So these weather fellows also decided that, okay, this snake, though big, looks harmless, and there's a lot of flesh, so we can gamatama kanna denna mas tiyanawa, and they are very happy. And they went close and the snake didn't budge. They poked him a bit, the snake didn't budge, and they were like, okay, this is really cool. We don't know why, but the snake is not responding, right? And they tied the snake to a giant pole, and now 3, 4, 5 people, because the snake is very big, is now going carrying the snake. And then again, just do you have the book there, Puta? Do you have the, you have the book? Because I can't find my. Eke Puta, just read that story. I forget whether it was somebody comes to save him. Was it again the king of gods, or was it somebody else? Somebody comes and bites the snake and releases the snake. Um, um, because the snake refused to scare those people or harm them out of his morality. Just read that story, Puta, under Sila. Unmute yourself.
The Bodhisattva was once born in the Naga world as King Sakapala. He grew sick of the life there and wanted to be born in the human world. So on holidays, he came to the human world and observed the moral laws sayings. If anyone wants my skin or flesh, let him take. On one such day, when he lay near an ant hill after observing the moral laws, a party of 16 men who had roamed about in searching of some flesh for them to eat saw him lying on the ant hill. They thought all this while we were not able to catch even a young lizard. We will kill this huge snake to eat. But they were afraid going near. So they came near him to attack with stakes and disable him. When he saw them coming with stakes, he was pleased, and his wish could be fulfilled. He said, I will close my eyes and tuck my hole in the colliers so that they may attack without any fear. I will sacrifice myself to them without any anger. The men attacked the snake and tied him in 8 places and carried. At this moment, a landowner, Alara by name, was journeying along taking 500 wagons. He saw these men carrying a huge snake, gave them oxen, gold coins, and other valuables, and got them released the snake. The Naga king, who was the Bodhisattva, went his adobe and came back with a great tribute to thank Alara. He brought Alara to his adobe and bestowed honor, great honor, and satisfied him with heavily delights for 1 whole year. Alara too became an ascetic and went to the Himalayas and dwelt there for a long time.
Thank you, Putta. That was very good. Well done. Thank you. Yeah, so that is the story, right? So it was not the king of God, Sakra, it was Alara, a merchant. So the story goes that this merchant felt sorry because the merchant could see that something is not right. Such a big snake being carried away like this. So he bought the snake and then released the snake. And of course, the snake was grateful, right? So that is how the Bodhisattva was perfecting morality, because once he made a decision, he stuck with it, right? Now, remember, Huta, this kind of perfections is not for you and I. This is for beings who are determined to practice these perfections throughout their samsara, uh, Sara Sankalpa Kalpa Lakshya, very, very long time, in order to be a Buddha, right? So the next one is Nekkhamma. Nekkhamma means renunciation, giving up the lay life and becoming a hermit. And this story is about King Makadeva, who was living a very long life and a very pleasurable life until one day he saw a gray hair. In fact, he had told his barber that one day if you see a gray hair on my head, please let me know, because for me, gray hair is a signal that death is coming, right? I used to think when I heard this story as a student, as a child, okay, that's cool. Let me see when I will get my gray hair. And I got my first gray hair when I was 23, okay? So I don't think that was a sign that death is coming. I think that was a sign that I have kata. Peenasa, right? Peenasa that kondi then okay. But for King Makadeva, we'll see how he dealt with it. So of course, he then made his son the king and he left to become a hermit. So who would like to read that? Janadi, would you like to read the story? Are you okay with that? Read the Makadeva story. Okay, thank you.
In Mithila, in the realm of Videha, there was a king named Makadeva who ruled righteously. One day he said to his barber, "Tell me, my friend, when you see a grey hair in my head." After some long years, the barber saw a grey hair and placed it on the king's palm. At that time, the king had another 84,000 years more to live. But at that sight of the grey hair, he thought, the death's messenger has come, I must renounce. He summoned his eldest son, handed over the sovereignty to him, and proceeded to the mango grove as a recluse. During the remaining 84,000 years, he led the life of a holy ascetic and was born in the realm of Brahma. A person who becomes a bhikkhu having renounced the lay life is no burden to society. He is like a bee collecting money without damaging the flower. His needs are few. He is free from all responsibilities. He maintains a balanced mind. Therefore, he gets the opportunities to lead a life of perfect purity, to think rightly, and to appreciate fully the higher spiritual values.
Very good. Thank you, Janadi. Well done. So that is the story. So in short, so this was a time when humans lived very, very long. So King Makadeva had already lived some 84,000 years when the first gray hair came, and he had another 84,000 years to live, right? So in today's context, people, let's say, live 80 years. So around 35, 40, gray hair starts coming, right? And that is like the halfway mark. Or if you think people live to be 100, around 50, the halfway mark, right? Now, normal people, what do? We will color our hair, right? During like some many years ago, during the time of Prince Siddhartha and even before, people used to renounce. They would hand over their properties and everything, kingdom, to their children, and they would leave and be hermits, right? So now that practice is not there now in the world, but certainly 6,000 years ago, when the Hindu religion was spreading in the world, that became a practice. Lot of people, um, after their middle point of life, they would leave the household life and be an ascetic. So it was a very normal thing back then. Okay, so even though nowadays it is not the case, if we find a gray hair, we will color it, right? අපි කියන්නේ කොණ්ඩේ ඩයි කරනවා කියලා. We'll color our hair and we continue in the lay life, we continue our jobs as long as we can, right? So times have changed now. But this was how it was. So in the Jataka story, they are referring to this king, and in the Jataka story, they are referring to long life, right? So 84,000 into 2 is what? 165,000, maybe 168,000, whatever. So that's a long life, right? Yeah, so the story is about renunciation, and the first gray hair being a messenger of death for a person who is going this journey of being a bodhisattva with the intention of becoming a Samma Sambuddha one day. All right. So Dana, Sila, Nekkhamma, those first three we covered. So next is Prajna, Virya, and Kanti. So Prajna is wisdom. That is understanding the true nature of the world. Now the Buddha said this world, this universe has three characteristics that is common to anything that is born into this world, and that is anitya, dukkha, and anatta. So anitya means everything is changing all the time. Because everything is changing, it is not satisfactory. Dukkha means unsatisfactory nature in life, nature of life. Anatta is that there is no being here, there is nobody in control. It's an automatic process, right? So prajna is about understanding that. Prajna is about understanding the Noble Eightfold Path, factors of enlightenment, and so on. So in the Jataka stories, there is this story about Senaka or Sattu Bhatta Jataka. So this is, in short, this is the famous story about the snake in the bag, right? So how the story goes is there was this old Brahmin who had married a very young girl. Now, back at the time of the Buddha and even now, the general recommendation is you shouldn't marry a person who is about your children's age, right? Give me a second. So there was this very old Brahmin, right? So let's say he was about 60 years old, right? So he marries a very young girl for his wife, let's say around 20, yeah? So when a 60-year-old marries a 20-year-old, that is the age of your children, right? So, and as one can expect, that doesn't go well. So um, this young lady obviously had a boyfriend, right? And she would find reasons to send the elderly husband out of the home so that she can meet the boyfriend. So what she does is once a month or whatever, she tells the husband, go and visit my parents, and she will make something for him to go and give the parents, and it will take him time to go and visit and give the stuff and then come back and so on. So in the meantime, he can meet the boyfriend. So that is how she planned it. So one such day, she told the old Brahmin, go and meet my parents. You didn't visit my parents in a long time, and make some nice food for him to take for the parents. But yeah, gala hari something nice. So so this guy, old Brahmin, so he sets out in the morning, and um, he then he so the wife gives him the agala, and I think she says, you also have some on the way because you'll also get hungry and tired, and take the rest to my parents, right? So while walking down, I mean, those days, so people mostly walk, there were no vehicles and stuff, no? So he was, after walking a fair distance, he was tired, so he sat under a tree to rest a bit, and he ate one or two agalas and drank some water, and he was resting. So while he was resting, what he didn't know was, because of the nice aroma of the agalas, a snake in a nearby anthill, a snake goes in um, to his bag, right? So he didn't know that. So now when he was ready to um, resume his journey, um, there was a tree deity, what we call Rukdevatava. So this tree deity saw that this guy is now going to get into trouble. So he said, Bamuna gedara giyot ගෙදර ගියොත් අඹුනසි මග හිටියොත් ඔබනසි තෝනසි කියලා කිව්වේ, so we can say ඔබනසි කියලා, so ඒ කාලේ වචන පාවිච්චි කරපු හැටිනේ. So ගෙදර ගියොත් අඹුනසි මග හිටියොත් ඔබනසි, what it means is, now දැන් ගෙදර ගියාම the wife will want to know whether the husband brought her anything, so she will immediately put her hand in the bag, and then the snake will bite her. මග හිටියොත් ඔබනසි කියන්නේ දැන් ඔබ පාරේ දිගටම රැඳුනොත්, you will feel hungry again, and you will put your hand into the bag, and then the snake will bite you, right? Something like that. So now the tree deity කෙලින්ම කියන්නේ නැතුව ඔන්න ඔය බෑග් එකේ ණයෙක් ඉන්නවා කිව්වනම් ඉවරයි. he said it in a riddle, right? So now the Bamuna is now upset. මොකද්ද මේ riddle එක කියලා ඒක කල්පනා කර ඉන්නකොට there was a Pandit called Senaka, so he was the one who helped to resolve the riddle, and he also used his wisdom, and he said, most probably your young wife is not being truthful to you, and you may want to investigate it once you go home, right? So the perfection of prajna, wisdom, comes from looking at the data or the details that is in front of you and trying to understand beyond it, right? So Senaka, the wise man, was a person who was very good at this kind of understanding. All right. And of course, Senaka was the Bodhisattva. So who would like to read that story? Kenuli, will you read?
Okay, teacher.
Okay, go for it.
A certain old Brahmin was sent out by his young wife to fetch a. Oh, also, teacher, I started from the middle.
Okay.
Senaka or Satubhatta Jataka. When a king named Janaka was ruling in Benares, the Bodhisattva was born in a Brahmin family and was known as Senaka. When he grew up, he learned the arts and science from Disapamo in Taxila and became a ministry of the king. He was a very intelligent and learned preacher and used to admonish the king and the subjects constantly. He was given a separate preaching hall for this. A certain old Brahmin was sent out by his young wife to fetch a slave girl to help her in domestic work and to collect a loan he has given earlier. When he set forth, he was given some baked rice balls for him to appease his hunger on the way. At a place where water was available, the Brahmin opened the bag and ate some of the rice balls, and went to drink some water, leaving the bag open. A snake smelt the food and crept into the bag. The Brahmin was the Brahmin, having quenched the thirst, tried to mouth or tied the mouth of the bag and putting it onto the shoulder without inspecting, went his way. A tree deity who saw this said, Brahmin, if you stop on the way, you die. If you go home today, your wife will die. The Brahmin was at a dilemma and did not know what to do. He journeyed along weeping until he reached the city gate. As he was passing the preaching hall, the Bodhisattva Senaka heard the Brahmin cry and asked his attendants to bring the Brahmin to his presence. When the Brahmin was brought to his presence, he asked the Brahmin why he was crying. The Brahmin said, while I was on my way, a tree deity said that if I went home, my wife would die, and that if I stayed, I would die. I am at a loss as to what I should do. While he was thinking, the Bodhisattva saw the bag the Brahmin was carrying. Surely a snake must have crept into the bag, he thought. Then he told the assembly by his great wisdom what had happened and asked the Brahmin to keep the bag on the floor, open the mouth, and beat the bag with a stick. He did accordingly, and the snake crawled out quietly. The Bodhisattva explained to the Brahmin that his young wife was not of good character, and that he was sent to fetch a slave girl merely to get an opportunity for her to meet the lover. Then he summoned the Brahmin who had taken the loan and sequired the money to the Brahmin.
Very good. Okay. So as per the written story, it's talking about the young wife sending the old husband to bring a slave girl and also collect some loan. Okay, so that's fine. How we heard this as a childhood story was slightly different, that she sent him to her parents' house. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The what is important is the snake going into the bag, and here what they refer to as rice balls could be the whole agala, or it could be actually rice balls made with. So in India, there are some various nice sweetmeats that they make, and they have great aromas. So whatever it is, it was delicious and a really nice smell, which made the snake come into the bag. Okay, and when the tree deity said, if you go home, your wife will die. If you stay on the road, you will die, was a riddle. And Senaka, the wise person, helped to solve that riddle. Okay, so that is prajna and wisdom. Then the fifth one is virya, perseverance. So here is the famous story about the squirrel mother trying to drain the sea with her tail, Kalandaka Jataka, right? So what happened is there was a storm, and there was this squirrel mother and the father and squirrel babas, I think two babas, and during the storm, they get swept away, the nest gets blown away, and the baby squirrels fall into the ocean. The mother and father fall down to the ground. And then, in order to try and help their children, the two squirrels decide to drain the ocean, right? Now, when we drop some water on the floor, we'll take a sponge and try to get the sponge to absorb the water, and then we'll squeeze the water to the sink, and then bring the sponge, absorb the water, squeeze the water to the sink, and that's how we try to get rid of the water if we spill some water. So the two snakes, it's not snakes, the two squirrels, they use their bushy tails. What they would do with the squirrel mother convince the squirrel father. The father also joined, so they would go and wet their bushy tail, soak their bushy tail with the ocean water, then come to the beach and shake it off. Then go back to the ocean and soak the tail, come to the beach and shake it off. So they were trying to drain the ocean and save their children. So the king of gods, the deities, Sakra, he saw this and he was like, oh my God, seriously. And he felt real compassion for the squirrel parents. And he came and rescued the squirrel babas, restored the kudu back where it was. And I hope he did it in a place where it won't get blown away to the ocean again. Probably that's what he did. And everybody lived happily ever after, right? So that is the story of so if you look at the moral of the story, perseverance, right? That is putting effort, continuous effort until you succeed, right? Now for a bodhisattva, that is absolutely necessary, isn't it? In order to go life after life, birth after birth, with this singular determination and put all that effort to perfect these 10 perfections, you need a lot of virya, right? Perseverance. So that is the story. Who would like to read the story? Netuki, would you like to do that? And can the others put their videos on, please? I'm losing lots of videos now.
Once the Bodhisattva was born as a squirrel, she gave birth to few young ones. They were living in a nest built on a branch of a tree nearly towards the sea. During the shower, these young ones fell into the sea. The mother was unable to pick them from the rolling waves, so they tailed. So, so the mother thought of draining the water drop by wetting their brushy tails and shaking it to sprinkle water on the sand in the beach. Sucker, the king of gods, saw these fertile effects of Mother Squirrel and saved the young ones from the water.
All right. Thank you, Mithati. Thanks for that. Okay, so what we have now is, hey, Lanka, good. Nice to see your video on. Gautam, what about you? So we completed 5, right? And it's 9, but let's complete the other 5 also. Okay, so because these are stories, not and these are not like heavy stuff, right? So we did Dana, Sila, Nekama, Prakshna, Virya, and the next one is Kanti, patience. Now here it is about an ascetic. Again, the ascetic is the bodhisattva who practiced patience as a perfection. So this is all about being able to endure and bless those who are inflicting suffering on you, right? So when a bodhisattva is harmed, he, rather than hating the people who are harming him, he takes the blame on himself, saying that this must be a past karma, or he must have provoked this person to, that is making this person take this action. So he hardly gets angry with that person. This is the Kantideva, Kantivadi Jataka, where Kundaka was the ascetic and King Kalabu and dancing girls. So if I tell this story very shortly, King Kalabu likes to have fun, so he goes with some dancing girls to a forest area or one of his many parks, and he gets drunk and he falls asleep. So while he's sleeping, the dancing girls they want to explore the park, and then they see this ascetic, and they're very happy to see him because he looks very peaceful. So they go and tell him, "Can you please preach something for us? Give us some advice." So he starts preaching. Then the king wakes up and he looks around and to find he's alone. So he gets very angry and jealous about it. And he's like, "Where is everybody?" And then he gets really angry and jealous when he sees that all the girls are sitting next to an ascetic and listening to him, why he died, and with so much awe and respect. So he then comes and asks, what I talking about? And the ascetic says, "I'm talking about patience." So you are talking about patience. So do you have patience? And the ascetic is like, "Yes, I have patience." "All right, let me test your patience." And he starts harming the ascetic, but the ascetic maintains his patience no matter what the king does. So king is a very wicked, cruel person. He does some really wicked, cruel things. But this ascetic, he just maintains his patience, and he doesn't have ill will or dvesha towards the king. Okay, so that is the story. So who would like to read it? Manuka, you are having the video on now. Can you have your video on? And can you read? Manuka? Kalana, could you read it, Puta? Okay, Manuka might be having some technical issue. He'll probably join back. Okay, Puta, go for it.
Once upon a time, a king named Kalambu reigned in Varanasi. At that time, the Bodhisattva was born in the family of a wealthy millionaire. His name was Kandaka.
Yeah.
When he grew up to be young, he studied under Disa Pamokachari and settled down as a householder. When his parents died, he distributed the amassed among deserving persons and wealth to the Himalayan region to lead the holy life. At living on wild foods for a long time, he gradually came to an inhabit area for the sake of collecting from salt. From there, he came to Baroness, his hometown, and entered the royal park. The following morning, he went to the city for his round for arms and casually met the commander-in-chief. He invited him to his house and fed him. The ascetic got permission from him to stay in the park. One day the king, Kalabu, during drunk, visited the park with his dancing girls and his favorite maid from the harem. While enjoying music and dancing, he fell asleep on the lap of the maid. As the king was sleeping, the girls stopped their music and dancing and went to see the beautiful of the park. They gradually came to the foot of the sultry where the Bodhisattva ascetic was enjoying the bliss of retirement from the worldly life. They sat around the tree and requested the ascetic to give them some useful advice. The Bodhisattva delivered a sermon of fat- Meanwhile, the king woke up and, not seeing the dancing girls, asked the maid where they had gone. Your Highness, they have gone away and are in the company of an ascetic under the sultry. Hearing this, the angry king took the sword and went to the place where the ascetic was. The king asked the ascetic, "What is the topic of your sermon?" Patty's Lord, what is this Patty's? Not being angry when someone abuses you, beats you, or insults you. Will you see the reality of your patents now? So saying, he asked the excultioner to lash him on all sides with the whip of thorns. The Bodhisattva's skin was cut deep to the flesh of, and blood flowed out. Then the king asked the ascetic, "What doctrine do you preach?" His reply was, "I preach patience. It is not only skin deep, but fixed deep in my heart and cannot be seen by you." Then the king asked the executioner to cut both his hands and both his legs and asked the ascetic what doc- doctrine he preached. "Sir, you think my paintings, paintings is at the extremity extremities of my limbs, but it is not so. It is deep seated somewhere else beyond your reach. The king asked from the executioner to cut the nose and ears. Still, the answer to the king was the same, though the ascetic was full of blood. Finally, the king killed the priest of the ascetic and went off. Blood rushed out of his mouth. Then the commander in chief came and attended to the wounds and placed him on the seat. Then he saluted him and said, "Sir, if you have any anger, may it be with only the king and none else." The ascetic replied, "Long live the king, whose 12 hands cut my limbs. Poor souls like mine will not regard such deeds with anger." Just as the king was leaving the park, the earth burst open and flames came from the hell, Avicii, and dragged him to the hell. King Kalabu in this birth story was Devadatta. Venerable Sariputta was the commander-in-chief and the ascetic was the Buddha himself.
Very good. So why the commanding officer was worried was people those days believed that ascetics are very powerful and they can curse and cause the entire kingdom to burn. So the commanding officer was very much afraid that because of the cruel act of the king, that the ascetic will get very angry and everybody in the kingdom will die or something, right? But what the ascetic assured him was, "Don't worry, the cruelty is from the king. From me, there's only patience, right? So don't worry. People like me who are practicing the Kanti perfection, yeah, yeah, who are practicing this will not do such thing, will not think of harming anybody, right? So the main thing there is, even if somebody is harming you, when you are practicing something like patience, you don't in turn harm that person. Okay, so that is the Kanti perfection. So we did dana, generosity, we did sila, morality, nekkhamma, renunciation, praksha, wisdom, virya, perseverance, and kanti, patience. So for the dana, generosity, the stories are with Santara and Sasa Jataka. For sila, morality, it is Sankapala Jataka, the king of Naga. Nekkhamma, renunciation, it is Makadeva Jataka, where the king saw the one grey hair and renounced the lay life. Prajna, or wisdom, is about Satta, Sattu Bhatta Jataka, the snake in the bag. Virya, or perseverance, about Kalandaka Jataka, the squirrel mother trying to drain the sea with her tail. Kanti, or patience, is about the Kantivadi Jataka, about the Kundaka ascetic and King Kalabu. So the next one is Satcha, truthfulness. Here it's about when you give a promise, when you keep a promise, you stick with it, right? And this is not about lying, this is about keeping a commitment. So sometimes we tell people, okay, I'll come tomorrow at this time, and then later we change our mind, or we promise somebody to do something, and then later we feel lazy, right? So this is about credibility. This is about keeping your word, fulfillment of one's promises. Bodhisattva thinks well before making a promise. And that's something we also can learn from, right? For making a promise, you have to think, is this something I can actually do? Because once you give your word, you must do it. Bodhisattva thinks well before making a promise and then fulfills it at any cost. Never breaks a word. Acts as he speaks and speaks as he acts. All right? Does not flatter to win hearts or hide his defects and vainly exhibit his virtues. Right? So the Madhusoma Jataka, which is about the Prince Madhusoma and a cannibal called Porisada, is the story here. Where again, in a very short version, the prince was once in the forest when this cannibal, so cannibal means a person who eats humans, right? He gets hold of this prince and says that I'm going to eat you. But then the prince is like, hang on, I promised somebody that I'm going to come and teach them something. So they are waiting for me. So can I just go and teach it and then I'll come back for sure. And then of course you can eat me, right? So this cannibal was quite amused by this because he has never had such a request before where someone says, hang on, I have an errand to do. I'll finish that errand and I'll come back and you can eat me. So he doesn't believe that this prince will come back, but he was highly taken up by this request and he was like, what the heck, let me release him, and says, okay, you can go. So the prince, he was true to his word. So he went back and he finished his errand and he came back and told the cannibal that, all right, I'm done, go for it. Enjoy your lunch or whatever. And then the cannibal was totally surprised because he never believed that somebody will keep a word to this extent. Okay. So he was so impressed. He um, told this prince that I want to be like you. Can you teach me how to be like you? Because I'm so impressed. Yeah. That's the short version of the story. So let's listen to the long version of the story. All right. What happened to Manuka? Ah, there you are, Manuka. Manuka, would you like to read that story?
Okay, teacher.
Thank you.
Once a bodhisattva was born in a royal family by the name of Sutta Soma. After his father's death, he ruled the country righteously. One day, when he was going out for a bath, he met a learned Brahmin. He decided to listen to a sermon for him, expressing his wish and telling him that he would return after the bath, proceed to the park. Unfortunately, a man-eating hideous robber by the name of Porisada, who was hiding in the park, got hold of him. Though he was not afraid of being killed, he repented for being unable to keep the promise with the learned Brahmin. Porisada, who got to know of this, allowed him to go back and return after hearing the Dhamma. The king acted according, though he knew that Porisada would definitely kill him. Porisada was pleased over the king's truthfulness. He fell on his knees and begged to pardon for the sin he was about to commit. The king, on his part, was happy to being able to get Porisada to the right track and pursued him and to stop eating human flesh.
Very good. Thank you, Buddha. That was nice. All right. So that's a nice story. Okay. So such a or truthfulness as a perfection is about keeping a promise. So if we look at these 7 that we have learned up to now, there are things that we also can learn from this, right? So dana being generosity. So we don't need to be generous by giving our life to anybody, but we certainly can, as students, you can help others with their studies, explain things your fellow students or fellow classmates don't understand. That is generosity, right? Generosity of knowledge, helping people, and generosity of your time and energy, like, helping your mom with the housework, and dad with whatever help he needs. Yeah, that is generosity. So sailor is morality, and um, uh, there are things we should do for moral discipline, right? Dress well, speak well, behave in a certain manner that your parents and your teachers will be proud of you. It all comes under sailor or morality. Renunciation, giving up lay life and becoming a hermit. So that is something we do temporarily, like on a poor day, if you have observed still, that's something you do temporarily, and that's something the Buddha recommended. He doesn't expect layman to do that, but he could at least temporarily for a few hours, if you can, let go of stuff and just experience that, that is nice. Okay, so prajna, of course, is something that we need to cultivate. You can call it common sense, you can call it being just just developing an awareness about and trying to figure things out, right? And without, the opposite of it is just to be a dumbass, okay? And not from an intellectual point of view, but simply from a being blind to what is happening around you, not having a clue about what is happening around you. And this is more about paying attention and using common sense and trying to figure things out. Okay. Virya, perseverance is something very, very useful for you as students. You are doing exams, you are doing sports, whatever it is, you can have goals and you work towards those goals, right? And having life goals. So if you want to be this and that, and some profession you want to follow, some particular degree or master's or PhD you want to follow, some scholarship you want to win, have some life goals and then really work hard to achieve them. That is about perseverance. Yeah? Patience is something very good for any human being, because sometimes people will scold you unnecessarily, and make fun of you and so on. And rather than beat them up or thump them, right? There are other things you can do. Yeah. But sometimes in that moment when something is happening, you might need to be patient, and you can take the right action of making a complaint to your teacher or your parents, or as an adult one day to the police. Those things you can do later, but at that point, in that moment, might be just to be patient, and that might be the wise thing to do. Okay. Truthfulness. Here, of course, we shouldn't lie, but here but their meaning is beyond lying. It's about keeping your word. And I think this is something we all can learn from. That is, before you give your commitment, to think about it and really think about whether it is something I can keep as a commitment, right? Because most of us, on the spur of the moment, we say, yes, and we say, okay, and we say this and that and all. But finally, when practically we're trying to do it, we realize that it's very hard to do. And then we go back on our word. Yeah. So keeping a commitment, and before committing something, really evaluating whether it's a commitment you can keep, a very important thing. All right, so the next three are Aditthana, Metta, and Upekkha. So let's cover those three as well. Aditthana means determination, right? And here it's a nice, very interesting story about a prince called Thamia. So this is about you being really determined to achieve your goal, right? So Prince Thamia, as per the story, he could remember his prior births, and as a result, he could remember that he was in the papayas for a really long time. And he was determined, therefore, that he's not going to do anything that will take him back to the apaya, right? So he wanted to make sure he's going to live life in a good way without harming people, causing pain to people, and so on. So he felt, so when he was small, he was the only child. So when he was small, he would go with his father, the king, and he would watch the king give out various punishments to criminals, right? And in those days, there were very, very harsh, vicious punishments that were given. So some people's heads need to get chopped off, some people's limbs are chopped off, and various other very painful, wicked punishments were given out those days. So looking at this young prince thought, if I become a king, I'll have to do this. And as a king, I'll have to give out these punishments. And as a result, I'll be causing a lot of pain to other humans. And that will cause me to go back to the empires. I don't want to be a king. So he made this determination at a young age. And he thought, if I tell my father that I don't want to be a king, he might not believe it, he might not support it. But if I pretend that I am deaf and dumb and crippled, then the father will think, how can I make a person who can't hear, who can't speak? So deaf means you can't hear. Dumb means you can't speak. And crippled means you can't walk properly, right? So this young prince starts to act like he's deaf and dumb and crippled. And as a result, the father also decides that he can't make him a king. So it's an interesting story. Let's listen to this story. Who would like to read this? Because the moral of the story is, if you are really, really determined to do something, you will go to extreme extents to actually make it work. Okay. Okay. So who didn't read? Gautam, would you like to read? Gautam or Lanka?
Okay, teacher.
Okay, Pata. Okay, Gautam, read it then.
Teacher, can you hear me now?
Yes, Pata, can hear.
Once upon a time, there was a kid named Cousin Dams, son of birth. After making a lot of offering to deities, one wife gave birth to a son possessing auspicious characteristics. He was named Temir. Temir. The king took special care to bring him up, as he was the only child. One day this prince heard his father, the king, inflicting very severe punishment to wrongdoers, and he got scared. He thought, if I become a king after my father's death, I too will have to inflict such punishment to wrongdoers, and I will be born in hell again. And got alarmed. In an earlier birth, too, he had been in hell, having committed a sin. A deity in the palace consoled him and instructed Tamir to pretend to be a cripple, a deaf and a dumb boy, so he could walk, hear, and speak. The prince Tamir, from that day onwards, determined to be deaf, dumb, and a crippled boy. So the king summoned doctors. None of them could detect any disability. Even when he was 16, he did not change his determination and acted as a dumb cripple. The disappointed king summoned a chariot and ordered him to bury the prince alive. When the chariot took the prince out of the city and was digging the pit, the prince appeared before him and told him why he pretended to be a dumb cripple. The parents who got the news from the chariot came and gave their consent for him to become an assistant.
Okay, very good. So, so that was the story. So a deity was the one who gave this young prince the idea. Can we have the videos on again, please? So a deity gave an idea, why don't you pretend to be deaf, dumb, and a cripple, and then hopefully your father will not make you a king. So that plan was going well, apart from the fact that the prince never thought that the father will order him to be killed, which was totally unnecessary, quite a weird thing to do. Anyway, and then when when he confided in the charioteer that, look, I'm actually pretending there's nothing wrong with me, the charioteer was totally surprised, and he said, let me tell your parents, they'll be so happy. So of course the parents were happy, and then when the father realized how earnest his son is in wanting what he wants, the father finally said, okay, whatever, you want to be a hermit, go ahead, be a hermit, right? So it's a nice story, Prince Damia story. It's something I always enjoyed. So metta, loving kindness, so we all know what metta is, right? This is about loving kindness for all beings, having a pure heart, which radiates metta. And the story is Chulla Dhammapala Jataka. It's quite a wicked and a vicious story, actually. It's a bit of a shocking story. But nevertheless, it's part of our Jataka story, so let's hear it. Lanka is not there, no? All right. Janadi, would you like to read it again? I know you read once. Would you like to read the story, please?
Okay.
Okay. Lanka is here. Lanka, maybe you can read the last one. Okay, go, Janadi.
Once upon a time, when King Mahapatapa was in Benares, the Bodhisattva was born as his son to Queen Consort Kunda. He was named Dhammapala when he was 7 months old. His mother was playing with him. The king came to the palace where they were playing. The mother forgot to rise up seeing the king, as she was filled with love to her son. The king thought, even now this woman is filled with the pride of her son and does not heed me. When the boy grows up, she will think I have a big man for my son and will take no notice of me. I will have him put to death at once. So the king summoned the executioner at once and said, go to the room of the queen and bring the child here and cut his limbs in my presence. The executioner snatched the child from the mother and was about to carry out his orders. The queen followed him and prayed to the king not to torture the child. She said, my son is 7 months old and know nothing. If there be any fault, it is mine. Bid my hands be cut off and not his. The king got the hands of the child cut off. The queen asked for the handless child. Then he got the 2 feet cut off. The queen asked for the body of the child without limbs, saying that she could support the child. The king asked his head to be cut off. The queen kept all the pieces of the child on the lap and started lamenting. After some time, her heart broke and she fell dead on the spot. The earth opened up and flames arose from it and dragged the king down to Avicii.
Okay, so this is why I said it's a shocking and vicious and wicked story, but it is a story nevertheless. So it's all about again a person feeling jealous, right? So the king had many wives, and one of the queen had a baby, and when the king visited her, so these queens are in different palaces. So the king expects the queen to drop everything and come running and pay attention to him. But in this case, when the king visited, the queen was busy with the baby, and the king got angry and thought, this baby is just a few months old, and this woman has already forgotten me. Imagine what will happen when this baby grows up to be a prince, and subsequently, she will have no regards for me at all. And with that anger and disillusioned mind, he inflicts pain on that little baby. And each time he's doing cutting off a hand or leg, the queen still begs and says, give me the baby, even without one hand, even without a leg, it's okay, just give the baby to me, I'll look after him. And that just makes the king more angry. And he keeps doing it. So It is indeed a sad story. But the Bodhisattva is the baby prince, and the story goes that the young Dhammapada prince, who was just 7 months, had no anger towards the father, no hatred at all. The story goes to say that he had the same loving kindness which he had for his mother, for his father, and also the person who was executing the order, right? Because these kings, they give orders only, they don't do the dirty work, right? Somebody else has to do the work for them. And the young baby was cultivating metta for the mother, same metta for the father, and the same metta for the person who was carrying out the order. Okay, so from a metta point of view, it's an extraordinary story. Yeah. So the last one is upekka, equanimity. So upekka means being neutral. In So there are pluses and minuses that can happen to us. Upekka means now normally general normal people like us who are called layman or protectioner. When something good happens, we are very happy, and when something bad happens, we are very sad, right? Equanimity is to be neutral towards any of these things, whether it's good or bad. So the Buddha said, if you can be undisturbed by 8 worldly conditions, loss and gain, fame and infamy, praise and blame, pain and happiness, and you can maintain a balanced mind, then you will be at peace. Okay, so the Lomahansa Jataka talks about how the Bodhisattva practiced this perfection. Okay, so Lanka, would you like to read the last story, Kuda? Great.
Okay. It is to live impartially or justly, that is, without attachment or aversion, without fear or favor. Equanimity is very difficult to be practiced in an imbalanced world. With fluctuating values, a person who practices upekka is not perturbed by the vicissitudes of life, such as loss and gain, praise and blame, pain and happiness. A bodhisattva who practices upekka makes out justice to all without being influenced by desire, hatred, fear, and ignorance. Lomahansa Jadhav, in a previous birth, in order to examine what asceticism is, the Bodhisattva became a naked ascetic and lived in a jungle in solitude. He was known by the name Lomahansa. One day, when he was walking along a village path, some boys began to tease him. When he did not care, they started pelting stones to avoid them. He entered to a cemetery. The boys followed him to the cemetery and began annoying him. This bodhisattva did not have any ill feeling and bore all hazards unmoved. The elders in the village were pleased at his patience and his behavior and started offering alms. His attitude to the mischievous children who harassed him and the villagers who offered alms was the same as he practiced equanimity during that birth.
Okay. All right. So thank you for that. So and that is also an interesting story right now. What is a naked ascetic? So a naked ascetic is a person who believes that humans do not need clothing, just like all other animals, right? If you look at your cat or dog, they are not wearing clothes, and we don't think that is funny, right? But if a human is not wearing clothes, we'll think that is very strange and funny and mad, because we are so used to humans wearing clothes, right? It's just a mindset thing. So back then, in the various Hindu religions, there were some religious groups who believed that we can also be like the animal kingdom and not wear clothes and be part of nature, right? So, so this Bodhisattva was belonged to such a religious group at that time, and therefore he practiced the traditions that they practiced without not wearing clothes. Um, now the thing is with some villagers, especially children and all, they make fun of such people, and while the elders of the village were very respectful and all, the smaller children were making fun of him. But when the elders were respectful, he was having a balanced mind towards it. He was not like very happy and, oh wow, people are respecting me. He didn't get excited about it. And when the small children were making fun out of him and insulting him, he didn't get upset thinking, oh, why are they insulting me? He maintained a balanced mind in both situations. And as a result, the villagers, especially the adults, were very, very impressed. And they advised their children that, this is a very sincere ascetic, very genuine ascetic, and you being rude to him is only going to create papa karma to you. So you need to be respectful and so on. Yeah. So that is the Lomahansa Jatake. So these are the 10 paramita. I'll show you the note that I'll share with you. It's just a summary. I'll put this in the group. So this was something I used to teach book 2 some time ago. And at that time, this was a note I had written and given students. Okay, so the paramitas are written on this side and the related Jataka story is written on this side. Yeah. So this is something you should study. And if you look at if there's one exam question that says narrate any Jataka story and mention the parami practiced by the Bodhisattva at that birth. So I have just given the Sasajataki here. In the 2017 paper, the question was, where's the question? There it goes, here. There we go. Name the 10 perfections in Pali English and give a brief description how the Bodhisattva fulfilled any one of them. So here are the 10 paramita, and I have given the Temia story as an example. Okay, so I have created model answers like this for papers from I think 2010 to 2017. So I have given Kavindhi teach all of those, and when she's going through papers and all, she will share this with you. These particular examples about question paper and answer, I'll put it in that note and post it on your group. All right, so that concludes the lesson on perfections. So let us just memorize it just once more so that you have studied it then and there. All right, so can you all unmute and let's recite the 10 together. Okay, everybody unmute, please. Come on, unmute. Okay, Lanka has unmuted. Who else? Others are still on mute. Okay, Nituki has unmuted. Who else? What about the others? Janadi. Inura has unmuted. Anasi. Okay, so let's say, okay, so what is the first one? Dana. Right? Go ahead and Kim.
Dana.
Dana, yes. Second one?
Sila.
Very good. Third?
Next come.
Next come. Yes. Fourth?
Pana.
Prajna. Prajna. So P-A-N-N-A is Prajna. Okay, it's written as P-A-N-N-A, but it's pronounced as Prajna. Fifth one,
Virya.
Virya. Yes. Sixth one is
Kanti.
Kanti. Kanti, right? Seven is Satcha. Satcha. Yes. Eight is Adityan.
Aditana.
Nine is
Metta.
Metta.
And the
Metta.
tenth is, yes. Tenth is
Teka.
Metta. Right. Now say it together. Dana, Sila,
Dana.
Sila, Nekama,
Sila. Nikama.
Prajna, Virya,
Virya.
Kanti,
Kanti.
Satcha,
Satya.
Aditana,
Aditana.
Metta,
Metta.
Pekka.
Upeka.
Yeah. Tell again. Dana, Sila,
Dana. Sila.
Nekama, Prajna,
Nikama.
Virya,
Prajna.
Kanti,
Virya.
Satcha, Aditana,
Kanti.
Metta, Pekka.
Satya. Aditana. Metta. Upeka.
Very good. Okay. So just repeat that a couple of times and remember a story or two, and then you will get full marks for it. Okay. All right, everyone. So tomorrow we don't have a class. Then on Tuesday at 8 o'clock, let's do the Buddhist councils lesson on Buddhist councils. Okay. Everybody okay with that? All right. Then see you, children. Good night and Teruvan Sannai.
Thank you, Miss Tervasan School.
Teruvan Sannai.
Okay, teacher. Thank you.
Teruvan Sannai.